Welcome to our weekly market review brought to you by ETM Analytics and TreasuryONE. As always, I'm joined by TreasuryONE's currency strategist, André Cilliers. André, in South Africa this week, there's only one thing that's on the discussion table, and that is, can this government pass this budget? There's been a lot of tension, a lot of speculation among the GNU partners. Will the DA and the ANC be able to main fences to be able to get this budget through on Wednesday through with enough support from the National Assembly members?
Yes, I've got a smile on my face because I've referred to the budget and I said that we have a budget speech. We don't have a budget as yet. Now, we'll only know what happens on Wednesday. In the meantime, we read the news wires and we've got lots of people that each of them's got something to say as to whether there is discussions or no discussions, progress with discussions. I don't even think that we should go and try and speculate. But we have to, because that's what we do. So I think that we will have a budget. I think it will be a budget that gets approved by the GNU. I think all the members of the GNU is very aware of what the impact on the economy, on financial markets could be if this does not happen. I think they're very well aware of that. I think they're also very aware of what will happen if after Wednesday, this GNU is not there and disappears into thin earth, and there's a new GNU with other political parties. So I think there will be a compromise. How the compromise looks, I'm not going to speculate on because that's too difficult. But I think they will compromise. The budget will be approved. How I don't know, but it will be approved.
The alternative of these two main members not being able to work together is just politically unpalatable. The scenarios that play out from this, whether the DA decides to leave the GNU because the ANC manages to pass the budget without them, whether the ANC is not unable to pass the budget at all, it becomes politically impalatable if they can't find a way to work. So I agree with you. I think there's going to be some form of arrangement between these two that's going to come together to be able to pass this budget. And it's going to be very necessary. And while we wait for that, obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty around that. And another round of uncertainty that's going to hit the markets this week is Trump's latest batch of tariffs that's about to be deployed this week, right? And obviously, as this uncertainty grows, the gold market is smiling all the way to the bank.
Well, it's Monday, the 31st of March, and we're expecting this big announcement sometime on Wednesday. The 2nd of April as to tariffs across the board for all the trading counterparts. The figures being mentioned is that if all the tariffs across the board is being implemented, that it could yield some $600 billion for the fiscus in America. That's a huge amount of money. The impact of that, of course, is that $600 billion in the fiscus means that somebody is going to pay for $600 billion in tariffs. And guess who that is? That's the consumer. That's the consumer somewhere in the world that's got to pay for that. That doesn't bring in the impact of the war that gets started because tariffs could be implemented from the other side on the exports of the US to them. So, and who benefits or what benefits? The gold price And I'm so glad that they've put it in a nice bright yellow that looks like gold, because the graph certainly spells gold. Everybody's buying gold. It's even doing better if you look at it here on this graph than Bitcoin. So what is it that people say? I want something tangible. I don't want something virtual. I want something tangible in this turmoil, because this could spell a major disaster for the world economy, for the consumer worldwide, for inflation, for monetary policy throughout the world. It could change the landscape for a long time. Throw into the pot the expressions used by Mr. Trump when he speaks about Mr. Putin and the possibility of sanctions on oil on that end, because he speed off with the man not coming to the table and agreeing on this stoppage of the war. So at the same time, he's peed off as well with the Ukraine that might possibly want to change the agreement on the minerals, So I think the world is also peed off because there's no certainty at this point in time. But I said more than a month ago, the man was elected for 4 years. He's not going to change personality. He's not going to change his erraticness. It's going to be with us for 4 years. I've now also seen and heard and read that the man said he is not finally decided on whether he wants to go for a third term. That means he might want to go for a change in the constitution of the US, because the US clearly, the constitution says 2 terms. So he throws everything up into the air. And no wonder gold does so well.
The question, of course, is whether the US economy and the business cycle where it's at the moment can withstand the erraticness of Trump, because the business cycle in the US has been turning for quite some time. And we see an increase in recessionary fears as these tariffs continue to pile on. And that has major implications as well going forward for the likes of inflation, the likes of the Fed rate cuts. So I see actually it was Goldman Sachs over the weekend, because of this deep expectation of the recession fears. It's really been the risk has just been climbing, along with the, I suppose, higher than anticipated inflation that continues in the US and the tariffs. They've moved their sentiment from 2 to 3 Fed rate cuts this year. So massive implication, these erratic behavior of Trump on the US economy.
Well, one must, just think about your very own self. Do you go out and spend a lot of money when you feel very uncertain about what could happen tomorrow, next week, and the month thereafter? Or do you rather sit on your hands and don't do anything? Don't go and spend the money. You don't run out buying a new car, a new house, new furniture, and all these things. You also don't make big investments. So that's why I say bring it back to your very own self, and then you know what an investor and what consumers are going to do. And we all know then if an economy is in a slight downward trend, then that will accelerate it. But it will accelerate it worldwide. So erratic. Jobs. He's stopped a little bit and slow down a little bit on the hiring and firing within state departments. But we are seeing, and I'm definitely thinking that this has got to do with tariffs that's to be implemented, that a lot of people ran off, imported and bought a lot of things. That creates short-term jobs in anticipation of tariffs being implemented. So try and get it a little bit cheaper before it becomes more expensive. That creates jobs in the short run. We'll have to see whether that continues once tariffs is fully implemented, and whether you then maybe see more jobs being shedded, because some of the jobs might not be a very lasting one that was created in this run-up to the implementation of tariffs. So we've got an interesting month or two ahead of us. We might see unemployment rise slightly, but not a lot.
So all in all, an uncertain week for the rand to follow. How do we see it playing out?
Well, if we look at the headlines that came out last week, towards the end of last week on Friday, about the budget and the ANC and the DA not being on the same page, there was a news alert that came out, and then suddenly the rand popped up to the 1840s. That's before the gold price made another $40 run up. But this morning, we're back down to 27. So the rand's holding in this very narrow range, 1810 to 1840. It's stuck there. And we said that we need something that really happens. And we called out that the 2nd of April might be the happening of the week. So let's see. But I think that the rand could still be very much in that wide range of 18 to 19 for quite a foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. Let's see if we can move from having a budget speech to actually having a budget by the end of this week. And then, André, of course, you and myself will catch up again next week.
Thank you very much.